As a leader, right, as you're going through crisis, you can't be part of the crisis.
Sure.
You have to be the solution.
Sure.
And to do that, you have to have the right temperament. To have the right temperament, you have to be spiritually balanced.
Sure.
Right? You can't say the wrong things. You can't do the wrong things in the middle of the worst crises, right? Because as a leader of an organization, you are solving problems. People think that it gets easier as you grow bigger, but what they don't realize is that the quantum of problem just grows. You know what I mean? Because I was very ambitious, I decided to go into a partnership with another business, which didn't work out because, I didn't read the fine print, and all of a sudden I lost my business. I became a minority shareholder in my own business because I didn't, I was very ambitious, but I didn't think things through, and in fact, the reason why my book is called Business by Grace, is because I've made so many mistakes, but I've always come back. And to come back, that's the grace part. It's only God, you only do it through God's grace when you've been broken so many times. So I went from having everything, right, to having absolutely nothing. Lost my business, lost everything that I had built from those early years to moving back with my mom in my old bedroom. Yeah.
That must have been tough.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine, right? Because people have been reading about you in the papers, you've been doing interviews, you've been on the radio, then all your naysayers are like, yeah, look at you now. We knew you'd be back. We told you not to do it. You know what I mean?
Hello, I am Dr. Manda Chiflaro, and on today's episode of the Super Lead podcast series, we are joined by Zibusiso Mkhwanazi, a purpose-driven entrepreneur who rose from selling sweets in Soweto to founding South Africa's largest Black-owned integrated marketing agency. Through the Mkhwanazi Foundation, he is empowering township-born entrepreneurs to turn their potential into purpose. And today we unpack his inspiring book, Business by Grace, and explore how faith and service can shape lasting impact. Zibusiso, welcome to Super Lead Podcast.
Thank you, man.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. So we're going to unpack your book, Business by Grace.
Yes.
How I built a world-class changing advertising business with 2,000 Rand. Is there a typo? You missed a zero there. How many zeros did you miss in that?
That's the exact number.
Okay. So, Shabi, I'm reading this correctly. It says here, how I built a world-class changing advertising business with 2,000 Rand. Okay. Not 20, not 200.
No.
Okay.
3,000.
So tell me about Zibusiso, the person that's able to do that. And on this podcast, we have time. So you can tell me from as early as possible where you grew up and all the way to where we are today, where you are an author of this book that I still think there might be a couple of zeros missing in the title.
No. That's the right number. So, I mean, my story starts in Soweto, raised by my grandmother, who was an entrepreneur, right? So, grew up in an entrepreneurial home. She ran a business selling cool drinks from home. So, used to assist here and there, with my grandmother. And the story moved on where, at some point in time, I moved in with my mom, who's also an entrepreneur.
Right.
So she made curtains for a living. Right. So, I mean, she didn't just make curtains. I mean, she made curtains for the who's who of the time. You know? So I got to meet very famous people, politicians, etc., through her business, through her curtain making business.
Right.
And
what size of business is this? So I can see your grandma's business, cool drinks at home, and the curtains business, is this like a big factory, or she's doing it at home?
At some point, yes. So My grandmother's business is definitely like a one-lady show, but my mom's business, because she used to teach people how to make curtains as well.
Right.
She used to have students. So typically in her office in the Joburg CBD, there'd be what, like 20, 30 ladies
Not a
making
chance.
curtains. Some were students, but they were learning on the work that she's got, that she had.
Sure.
And at some points in time, or a point in time, I remember she even had a stand at the Renista show, at the time. So it's her taking a simple thing like making curtains, and she became like the curtain queen of Soweto in essence.
Stunning, man, stunning. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then where is that business still going?
No. So eventually she had the calling for ministry. And she completely closed it. One day she just sat me down and she said, "Look, I want to serve God now."
And what's she doing ministry?
In Vosloorus.
Right. She leads the church.
Yes.
Okay, what's the church?
Yeah, it's Holy Jerusalem in Vosloorus. So she leads that branch of the church, and growing. She's been doing it ever since I think I was in high school, if I'm not early high school. So you can imagine, life just changes overnight. Because she was running her own business. Then all of a sudden, she's now going to start with one person in a garage. So yeah.
And financially,
everything was no. It took a serious dip. That was her calling, her conviction. She just said, "You know what? God doesn't want me, to push this business anymore. This is what I need to be doing with my life." So you can imagine the people around her, saying, no, this, you can't do that. You've got bills to pay.
Yes.
You've got children to raise, school fees. She's like, no, this is what I'm going to do.
And what happened to you and your siblings in that journey?
Look, we tried to make by. Life changed, eh? We were living a life where, you could have meat every day. A life where meat is a luxury. If you see it once a month, wow. And in reality, that was, life for quite some time.
Sure. Right. Okay. So growing up, high school and matric?
Yeah. So high school, went to Bedford View High School, and so kind of lived under those conditions. But I understood though that I was destined for something big and great, despite the situation at home at the time. And that's what led to the conversation that pushed me into entrepreneurship. Where she just came and said, "Look, I'm a single mom, and there's no one helping me out, and I'm not sure how I'm going to get you through university."
Okay.
And through that conversation, that's what pushed me towards business. Because I'd always grown up in that environment.
Yes.
The piece that I forgot to mention is that in primary school, I ran a sweet business, right? Selling, my first proper business, and it was a proper business, and I'll tell you why. Right? That's because it started off with selling sweets, right? And then it's me realizing that I can actually scale this business, right? And I got my friends to sell for me, right? And I paid them in sweets, right? And I was scaling this business where over 10 of my friends were selling for me every break, right? So start small, scale it, and with scale, disrupt the environment. Because I remember one day at break, the school principal comes and says, selling of sweets is now banned at school because now it's like out of hand, And I remember he said, like, kids are here to learn, not become entrepreneurs. I was like, well, and I just went on to the Joburg streets, and and it went from a sweet business to an ice cream business, on the streets of the Joburg CBD.
After school.
And school holidays, corner President Street and Small Street. That's where I used to be.
Right.
You
didn't play sports and do all the other things they're doing?
No. That was never my thing.
Business was your thing.
Yeah. Making a difference was my thing.
Sure.
I mean, for me, I couldn't, even till today, I struggle with sports. You know what I mean? I won't lie.
Okay.
I struggle with sports.
As in following
The logic.
this interview might end right now, right here. Okay.
No offense. No, it's my own struggle.
Yeah,
and it's one I'm not proud of, But I struggle with it.
I'm curious to hear some more why.
I'm a very logical person.
Yes.
When I'm watching sports, I'm thinking, but I could be making money right now. That's the problem.
Okay, all right. Now,
I could be doing something
you could
productive.
be doing something else rather than just.
But it's a personality
You're
thing.
missing out.
Am I?
Yeah.
What am I missing out on?
Just the joy and the energy and the passion of watching sports and your team win. So first you must support the team that's good, which is Sundowns. So
no. Kaizer Chiefs is good.
It seems like I'm being outvoted here. And Tammy also is saying Chiefs, you're saying Chiefs.
Oh, but you should be asking why Chiefs.
No.
For a guy who doesn't watch sports, why Chiefs? That's the question.
Okay, let's go there.
Right.
Yeah.
So growing up, I remember overhearing a conversation, right, between a Chiefs and Pirates supporter.
Yeah.
Right, and then the Chiefs supporter is like, "Yeah, you Pirates people, you the ones always burning down the stadium."
Yes, yeah.
And when I looked at the Pirates logo,
it's
got and it's all scary. And I thought, oh, that means those are the evil guys. So the good guys are the peaceful guys, right? They're like, yeah, my team is Chiefs from now on. If you ask me who's the goalkeeper of Chiefs, but you'll be proud of me. I watched the final match, World Cup 2010. At least.
Okay, that's something.
It's something.
We must fix this. We need to find a way of getting you to real stadium and kind of. First, you must stop supporting Chiefs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they're not great. If you supported a team that was great, you'll be going to the stadium every week.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll forget about making money.
Oh really?
Yeah. It's that addictive. Okay.
All right. There must be something potent in there.
Okay, so you had the conversation?
Where she says, look, I can't take you, I'll struggle, And throughout high school, I always had a passion for tech, computers.
Sure.
I've always been one of those kids where I come back from school, because I'm not into let's go do this, let's go do that. I just want to expand my knowledge, all the time. So my knowledge base was around tech and computers. And I thought, okay, how do I expand this, and make money out of it, and that's when I started my computer business at grade 11. I was 17 years old, and my first client was my school, so I started, I convinced my principal that I could do this, and the school was struggling with money. I was like, no, don't worry, you don't have to pay me.
No way.
I'll do this, and became my first client because all the computer teachers and students could see that, hey, I think we have a computer buff in the school, so I got more clients that way.
Sure.
I did the same thing for my library, and I got clients from my neighborhood as well.
Right.
So I established a computer business, right? But I was very clear about my goals and what I wanted to do, in that, yes, I wanted to get through school, but at the same time, always knew that I was destined for something big and great, and and I discussed this in my book where I overheard my aunt and uncle talking about a guy who made $1 million at 21. Oh, no, I think at 25. And I was like, no, I'll do it at 21, and I made that my goal, and
we're going to get into that in a moment now.
Yeah.
Wow. So now, writing a book is a painful exercise. It's long, it's editing, it's hours, etc. What's happening in the world that necessitated this book and for you to pour in the hours and all that comes with it? Why
Well,
this book?
You know, part of my journey that I discuss in the book is me finding purpose.
Sure.
Right. There was a point in time. So when I started the business, it was all driven commercially, like any other business, right? Driven by commercials. But you know, after going through some great difficulty in life, and gave my life to God. And when I did that, then I realized that, hang 10, this entire time, all my life, I've been living to make money, right? But there's a deeper purpose, you know, in life besides that. And I had to lose it all, right, at 23. So I was dead broke, had nothing, right? But that's when I discovered my purpose, you know, because, you know, to discover purpose, there can't be a lot of noise that distract you from it, you know, and now being stripped away, you know, all my wealth at the time, all the people that I knew, having to restart in business because that business that I had built up was gone, right? And I discovered that purpose, and that purpose was to make a positive difference in people's lives.
Lovely.
Right. And through that purpose, I started doing mentorship in the townships. I established an organization called Davies League at the time, where I was just talking to entrepreneurs, lots and lots of entrepreneurs, helping them through their businesses. You know, I still had the knowledge. Yes, my business had failed, you know, but I still had the entrepreneurial knowledge, right? And I now knew what not to do, you know, as an entrepreneur. You know, and you know, I did that for many years. And eventually I had to concentrate back into building the business again. And in building the business again, you know, there was still a lot of demand where, you know, a lot of young people in particular wanted me to mentor them, you know, and, you know, unfortunately I only have 24 hours. But the problem is that there's hundreds, if not thousands of these young people, right? And what's the best way to do mentorship is through a book.
Oh, excellent.
And to reach as many people as possible, to change as many lives and for as many people to see their dreams come to fruition. Do it in a book.
Let's talk about your journey to your first million.
Okay.
How did we get to the first million? So you alluded to, you know, you had a target, a vision to make your first million at 21.
At 21.
Yeah, so how did we get there?
So this business that I started from high school, right, and post high school, I kind of realized that, hey, this is going to be a long journey here. If my average transaction size is like, what, 10 grand a pop or whatever the case might be, right, like that's a long way to a million, right? And that's when I decided to pivot. And in pivoting, you know, I analyzed the market. Where is the opportunity? There's the growing world of app development, software, you know, web development. The internet was still a fairly new thing at the time, you know, and I kind of went, okay, since that's where there isn't a lot of players and people are kind of figuring out the space, let me jump in there and figure it out there. And I converted the business from a web development business, from a hardware and repair business into web and software development business.
And you had no background in this, just self-taught?
Self-taught, right? Because I sucked in information like crazy with all my spare time. You know, so went to the library, learned, you know, like eventually I got a computer at home. You know, I practiced everything that I was learning, you know, and and consuming information around how to do programming, how to do design, etc., etc. And you know, and I established the business as a web development business. And in doing that, right, so there's the technical skill, but in the market, what was missing was, people were designing websites, right? Just like in Steve Jobs' time, right? People were making computers, right? But what they were not doing is considering interface, considering aesthetics, right? And the very same thing was happening in my industry, where my website was just something that you could have just typed out. You know what I mean? And you just smack a picture in the middle of, and it, as long as the information is there. Because these things were handled by IT departments.
I see.
You see. And I was almost like a merger of both, where I understood the tech side, but I also understood the creative side.
Yeah.
Right. And I partnered with students from University of Johannesburg, right, who were graphic design students, multimedia students, and I kind of said, look, we can take these sites one step further. Let's make sites that are really beautiful.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Because, I mean, this is a representation of a business. It's not just about the information, but about how it's presented. And I went to advertising agencies.
Okay.
Right? And I kind of said to them, you guys are really good at creatives, but you know nothing about the technical side of advertising, right? Which was web. They didn't, you know, and I came in and I almost plugged into advertising agencies, different advertising agencies.
Sure.
And in so doing, right, we created our own niche because now we were at the back of those agencies, right?
I see.
And on the other side, they worked with the biggest brands in the country. So all of a sudden, you know, a kid from the township is now working with the biggest brands, although those brands are not aware.
Sure.
But,
and you're in the background building their site.
And we could build a portfolio because from all of that work, we could build our own portfolio where eventually we could go direct to client.
Sure.
You know, and that's how we built the business. We
and this in how long?
Sure. So the computer business was around 17, 18 years old. So around the time when I was 19, after, from 19 to 21, those years,
Incredible, incredible. And then things fall apart.
Then things fall apart.
You know, what happened?
So you can imagine at 21, right? I'm pretty all right. You know, there's
way more than all right.
I've got my own house. I've got my own car, which I bought for myself. You know, and 21, being exposed to life that early, you know, you tend to get a big head at the same time. You know, I wasn't making the smartest choices. You know, and because I was very ambitious, I decided to go into a partnership with another business, which didn't work out because, you know, I didn't read the fine print, you know, and all of a sudden I lost my business. I became a minority shareholder in my own business because I didn't, you know, I was very ambitious, you know, but I didn't think things through, you know, and in fact, the reason why my book is called Business by Grace, you know, is because I've made so many mistakes, you know, but I've always come back. And to come back, that's the grace part. You know, it's only God. You only do it through God's grace when you've been broken so many times. So I went from having everything, right, to like having absolutely nothing. Lost my business, lost like everything that I had built from those early years to moving back with my mom in my old bedroom.
That must have been tough.
I mean, you can imagine, right? Because people have been reading about you in the papers, you've been doing interviews, you've been on the radio, then all your naysayers are like, look at you now. You know, and we knew you'd be back. We told you not to do it. You know what I mean? So it's going through those emotions.
And then how long did that season take?
It lasted, well, around that time. I would say about a year or so. You know, I went through that season, but that's the time. I think that's the most important time, probably of my entire life. You know, my professional life, right? Because it took me losing everything to gain perspective, right? Because my perspective was based on, you know, as I mentioned earlier, it was a very transactional perspective. You know, to be able to understand proper customer service, right? I actually had to care about the customer, not what is in their pocket, but about the human being and their intrinsic needs themselves. You know, it took me losing everything, you know, to understand the importance of building right, you know, to build with the right processes, you know, because I didn't have all those things. I was just moving one job to the next, you know, and
so in this year you're at home. I just want to imagine. So what do you wake up and do? I mean, used to have a full day, I imagine,
Yeah.
with meetings and all of that
Yeah.
stuff, and then things fall apart. Now you're back at home.
Yeah.
What's the day in the life of
Yeah.
C?
So I became part of a school called TECNO, which is a spiritual school,
Okay.
right? Because I knew that my problems were deeper than what met the eye, right?
Okay.
Yeah. You know, like it's a spiritual school, so it's almost like, I'll call it a third eye school.
Okay.
Right? To see it not from your perspective,
Good.
but why is this happening?
Sure.
Why are you going through this phase in life?
Sure.
What is it that you're meant to discover?
Sure.
What type of a person does God want you to be? What type of a nature of person and character?
Sure.
And it was realigning my values as a human being, right? So why am I existing in this world? And when I started finding all of those answers, I found them through the school TECNO. That's what I did almost on a daily.
Excellent.
Right? Whereas now my knowledge consumption wasn't now from a typical book, but it was from the Bible.
Oh, excellent.
And it was being led, and it was listening and gaining new perspective.
Sure.
And in spending all of that time in TECNO, then it reshaped my character, and that's what life was typically like, and as I mentioned on the side, now I was almost starting to merge spirituality with business at the same time.
Excellent.
And so that's why the name David's League for my mentorship organization, because it's based on David and Goliath, the story of David and Goliath, that as a young person you can achieve the impossible, right? Because now I had the best of both worlds.
Yes. Oh, stunning. So now let's move to the next chapter. So after that season, how do we bounce back and get back into entrepreneurship?
Now, to be honest, it was divine intervention. I won't lie about that. I mean, part of the problem when I got out of my old business is that I went into a terrible overdraft. Like horrible, which I had signed up for, but I had not used up those funds, right? Which caused all sorts of problems and debts and One day I just got a call from the bank, and they said, "Look, we've reversed the funds." Right now, this doesn't happen, because if it's gone, it's gone.
Yes.
But what they found after an investigation is that I had actually canceled that overdraft.
Right.
But it was still active on the system. All right. And so the bank was kind of said, "Look, we actually found out that." So I didn't even complain to the bank. They called me and said, "We found a mistake on your account because it's in arrears." So they were preparing legal action, and so they just called and said, upon investigation, while we're about to take you to the cleaners, this is what we found, and we've reversed the money, so you're okay.
Right. Those bankers who are watching us. Do you want to just talk to the bankers to go reverse all these things for everyone? Oh, that's incredible.
I was not even aware of that. That's the thing. I was not aware.
Okay.
They called me, right?
Yeah.
And from that happening, we're able to find new pieces of business, and like a small, like out of the blue, some guy I met years ago literally calls and he says, "Dude, I've got an opportunity. Do you still do web development?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I do." You know how it goes.
Yeah. Do you have a team? Yes, we do.
I met him.
Can you come at 2 o'clock? Of course we will be there.
Of course, you know what I mean. And I went for that one pitch, and we got the job.
Sure.
Sure. And from that.
But you didn't have the team. It was just you now.
Hey, you build it. Excuse me. You build it with time.
Sure.
And from that one job, then one job led to another, and we were doing, quite a lot of work for them.
Sure.
And that's kind of when the bounce back started.
Yeah.
But in so doing, when I talk about when you're now led by purpose.
Yes, please.
Right. I remember being in another briefing, and I was sitting next to someone, and this particular opportunity had stringent BE requirements.
Yeah.
Right. And this guy says to me, "Listen, we want to do this, but like we're fully white owned." Would
Yeah.
you mind helping us?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, of course.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
We had a few coffees, and within a month or two, I owned the top 5 web development business in the country. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't pay a cent for it.
Not a chance.
Yeah. I was a shareholder in that business.
Wow. Talk about grace, eh?
Yeah. You know, so I had offices in Joburg and Cape Town as a result. So what I did
Yeah.
up to the age of 21,
Yeah.
you know, and with grace, like I exceeded it far in abundance.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Because you've used age numbers quite a few times. So I'm wondering, what age are you now as this new shareholder?
Probably about 25, 26 or so. You know, I'm going to Cape Town for the first time in my life. Going to visit my own office. Yeah, that's my first time going to Cape Town on a flight, you know. Yeah, life changed.
This big shareholder is stepping into a flight for the first time.
To
go visit his business.
But you see, then again,
Sure.
you know, like in that, you know, it goes to show the power of vision and partnerships.
Sure.
Right? Because, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs fails to start because, you know, they always see the obstacle of capital.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But you ask me, so, but how do you then just get into an existing company? You don't have money, you don't have connections, you don't have all of these things that are said are needed, you know. I don't have friends in high places to be able to do a deal, right? But the one thing that I did have was vision, right? I was able to demonstrate to those guys to say, this is how I'm going to take you from point A to point B, right? Because I had a different way of doing things, right? So it became more than just we need a black partner in our business.
You were actually adding value.
Adding value, right? So their main operation was in Cape Town, right? They had, if I'm not mistaken, they had about 30 or 40 people that they were employing in Cape Town. And in Joburg, they had about 3 people. So the big office was Cape Town. You know, so when I got in, that was the case. But when I left, the big office was Joburg. The office that I ran.
Oh, stunning, man.
You know what I mean?
Stunning.
That's where the big clients were.
Yeah.
And why? It's because of vision. It's where I wanted to take them. They saw the vision. They said, come in, right, and grow this Joburg offering, which I did. Right. And that's how I earned my shares. So I paid for them through the value that I was able to put on the table.
Stunning. I can't believe the clock has run so fast. So if we were, because I think everyone needs to just go and read the book and learn as much as we can. But if there were like 3 or 4 things you want to lift as lessons and learnings for those who are listening to us, what might these be?
Purpose, number 1, without a doubt. For me, that was my crucible moment. That was the turnaround moment, right? When you lead with purpose, you know, when you live with purpose, then you can lead with purpose.
Excellent.
And you can build with purpose, right? And that becomes your true north around what you are doing, right? And my business is built upon that. You know, our culture is built upon that purpose, right? And that's why it works. I mean, today, I got a study this week. They interviewed large clients in the country, you know, so from your big banks, insurance companies, et cetera, and relationships with their agencies. So what we found through that study of advertising agency, we are the top 3 best performing agencies in the country.
Lovely,
right?
man.
So besides the size and the people that we employ, the work that we do, but you know, to perform as the top 3 in the country, right, across creativity, strategy, innovation, results, across all measures, right? You have to have purpose in the center.
So we've got let's say we've got the purpose in the center, and then any more?
Partnerships, right? Partnerships are very important. And when I talk about the power of partnerships, for me to gain market access, it was through a partnership with another business. Now, I have built many businesses from that juncture. And those are partnerships with people. And that's how I've gotten into opportunities that I thought I would never, ever get into, in rooms, and global clients that I thought I would never go into. So the power of partnerships you can never, ever underestimate. And lastly, it's self, right? So
Self.
yeah, spirituality.
Say more.
Whatever you believe in. For me, it's God. And that is my true north. That's what keeps guiding me, because with entrepreneurship, you've got to have a supernatural ability to endure stress that another person wouldn't be able to endure.
That is
right?
true. That is true.
And that's a gift, right? And it's about getting into that gift, because you're gonna need it. You're gonna need that power of endurance. I'd like to share a story, briefly, of Nelson Mandela on a plane. Apparently there was a problem on a plane, and he was reading the paper, and someone goes up to him and says that there's a problem on the plane, and then he says, "Oh, okay." And I mean, the thing was flying with one engine, and he says, "Okay." But then when he lands, then he confesses. He says, "When you said that, I was really scared."
Oh, wow.
But that's when you analyze that as a leader, right? As you're going through crisis, you can't be part of the crisis. You have to be the solution. And to do that, you have to have the right temperament. To have the right temperament, you have to be spiritually balanced, right? You can't say the wrong things. You can't do the wrong things in the middle of the worst crises, right? Because as a leader of an organization, you are solving problems. People think that it gets easier as you grow bigger, but what they don't realize is that the quantum of problem just grows. You know what I mean? In that you could make a 20 million rand problem now versus before. You know what I mean? And that 20 million problem does not affect, or that problem doesn't affect like 3 people now. It affects 30 people or 300 people, as an example. So being spiritually balanced is extremely important. Have a good routine. Pray. Very important. Whatever way you balance your spirit is very important. Spend time with family. That's very important.
Excellent.
And yeah.
Oh, this has been incredibly awesome, Zibusiso. Lovely, lovely. Thank you for your work. Thank you for the book, and thank you for stopping by to share your insights. Where can people find this book?
Preferably, please support my foundation.
Okay, say more.
Mkhwanazi.co.za. You can get a copy of the book on the website. But you can also get it at your local exclusive books.
Excellent.
And a number of good bookstores, but please preferably support the foundation.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Great insights. We ask our guests these 2 questions.
Okay.
One is to give our listeners one challenge from here on after listening to us. And number 2 is to recommend a book, but I think that's taken care of.
One challenge. So every day, I wake up early hours of the morning, 3 o'clock, every single day. And I've come to realize that what you do at 3 a.m. determines how your 3 p.m. is going to shape up.
Lovely.
And I challenge your viewers to do exactly the same. Be productive at 3 a.m. in the morning before anyone wakes up.
3 a.m.
Yeah.
Amen.
I hope that's not too hectic.
You heard some like, sure. 3 a.m. it is. Yeah, Shami, 3 a.m.? So we need to see some of those emails coming through and the documents and all that productivity. 3 a.m. So
3 a.m.
3 a.m. it is.
And I'll start with you, man.
No, you've got a deal. You've got a deal. Can you just tell Rulani directly there and say, Rulani and Shami?
Yes, Rulani, Shami, they're at the back. Challenge extended.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your challenge. Thank you for your work and for this book. We'll put the details of the website on the show notes as well. so that we can all go support the foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cool stuff. That was Zibusiso, everybody. Oh, incredible, incredible.